Give me 2 minutes, and I'll tell you a story. Every writer hates typos, those gremlins on the page or screen that confuse readers, raise doubts, and challenge one's credibility. The easy explanation is human error. We all make mistakes. But that's just cognitive dissonance to a professional author. We must be infallible, perfect. No excuses, no rationalizations. As a published freelancer for 40 years, a former journalism grammar instructor at the University of Oregon, and an obsessive proofreader of mine and others' work, I take pride in my copy editing skills. But none of that matters when you're the victim of the dreaded high-profile typo. In my case, one single error is still painful and perplexing, some 7 years after it reared its ugly head in my 2011 book, Trauma Journalism on Deadline in Harm's Way. My book profiled American and international war correspondents and other journalists who have covered crimes, conflicts, disasters, and tragedies. It also discussed an emerging movement within the media and mental health profession to recognize the psychological impact trauma reporting has on journalists and their sources, including victims, their families and friends, and even entire communities. I spent more than 6 years working on the book, conducting scores of interviews and researching countless texts. I compiled almost 500 footnotes. It was a serious book on a serious subject. Trauma Journalism on Deadline in Harm's Way was published in fall 2011 by Continuum Bloomsbury, a respected international firm. The foreword was written by Terry Anderson, a noted journalist and best-selling author, famous because of his own trauma. Anderson was Middle East bureau chief for the Associated Press in March 1985 when he was abducted by Lebanese terrorists and held captive for almost 7 years. I was honored to have Terry's endorsement. In November 2011, he was teaching at Syracuse University's Newhouse School of Public Communications, where I was invited to speak and have a book signing. The next day, I got what I thought was a thank you email from an expert source in Australia, a woman I had profiled as a global leader in the trauma journalism reform effort. But she was writing not to praise me, but to bury me, all because of one typo. On one page, I had inexplicably written Tanzania, not Tasmania, as the site of the deadly 1996 Port Arthur massacre, where 35 people were killed and 23 wounded by a lone gunman. On an earlier page, I had correctly listed Tasmania, but on the second reference, the typo appeared. Both words have 8 letters, including the same last 4, A-N-I-A. Add an M, and you have some idea of my mental state when I realized the error. This typo had been overlooked by me, my editor, the publisher's copy editor, and many other readers before publication. Despite my heartfelt apologies, official apologies by the publisher, and the issuing of an errata message in all hardcover and paperback copies sold in Australia and the United Kingdom, the trauma expert was adamant in condemning my book. Trauma Journalism on Deadline in Harm's Way was being blacklisted down under. I use this still painful memory as a teaching lesson with my students, who tend to shrug off typos like pesky insects. No, it isn't fair that an entire book and one's life work can be undermined by a single misused word. But nobody said the writing life was fair. This is Mark Massey. Thanks for listening to my new weekly series, Give Me 2 Minutes, and I'll Tell You a Story. Stay tuned for more entertaining episodes, something to enjoy in these troubled times.